On the first day of 1953, a baby blue Cadillac pulled into a gas station in Oak Hill, West Virginia. The driver, an 18-year-old college freshman, turned around to check on his passenger. The man in the back seat had been quiet for hours, too quiet. He reached back and touched his hand. It was cold. The passenger was Hank Williams, the biggest star country music had ever produced. He was 29 years old. And here's the part of the story nobody tells you. Hank Williams was not an exception. He was a pattern. Over the next 4 decades, country music would lose its brightest stars, one after another, to the same roads, the same planes, the same pills, and the same industry that worked them to death. Patsy, Cline, Jim Reeves, Johnny Horton, Keith Whitley, Dottie West. This is the complete story of country music's tragedies. And once you see the pattern, you can never unsee it. Start with Hank, because everything starts with Hank. Born in 1923 in rural Alabama, son of a railroad engineer who spent most of Hank's childhood in a veterans hospital, the boy learned guitar from a black street musician named Rufus Payne, who everyone called T-Tot. Payne earned nickels on the sidewalks of Georgiana. What he taught that skinny kid would eventually be worth billions. By 1949, Hank Williams owned Nashville. Lovesick Blues stayed at #1 for 16 weeks. The Grand Ole Opry called him back for 6 encores the first night he played there. 6. They called him the Hillbilly Shakespeare, but Hank had been born with a spinal condition, spina bifida occulta, and the pain never left him. He drank to work. He worked to drink. In 1951, a fall during a hunting trip made the back pain unbearable, and a quack doctor, a man whose medical license turned out to be from a diploma mill, started supplying him with chloral hydrate and morphine. The Opry fired him in August 1952 for missing shows. His wife Audrey left, and on New Year's Eve, on his way to a concert in Canton, Ohio, somewhere on a dark highway in West Virginia, his heart simply stopped. The official cause? Heart failure with alcohol and drugs in the mix. His last single, released weeks earlier, was called I'll Never Get Out of This World Alive. Nashville buried him, mourned him, and learned absolutely nothing, because the machine had a schedule to keep. In the 1950s and 60s, a country star's income came from touring 300 nights a year, driving between shows in cars and small planes, in all weather on 2-lane roads. The labels took the records, the promoters took the shows, the artists took the highway, and the highway took them back. November 1960. Johnny Horton was the hottest thing in the business. The Battle of New Orleans had just spent 6 weeks at #1 on the pop charts. Not the country charts, the pop charts. He played a show at the Skyline Club in Austin, Texas, the same stage where Hank Williams had played shortly before his death. Driving home that night near a bridge outside Milano, Texas, a drunk driver crossed the center line and hit his Cadillac head-on. Horton died on the way to the hospital. His widow, Billie Jean, now held a distinction no woman should ever hold. She had been married to Hank Williams and then to Johnny Horton, both dead before 36. Then came March 1963, the single darkest week Nashville has ever known. Patsy Cline was 30 years old and had already survived 2 near-death experiences, a car crash in 1961 that threw her through the windshield, and a childhood bout of rheumatic fever. She told friends she felt like her time was short. She had just recorded Sweet Dreams. She was the greatest voice the genre ever produced, and she knew it, and she was right. On March 3rd, she sang at a benefit concert in Kansas City, a fundraiser for the family of a disc jockey named Cactus Jack Call, who had died in a car crash. Read that again? Country stars gathered to raise money for the victim of a road accident, then got on a small plane to fly home. The Piper Comanche, piloted by her manager Randy Hughes, hit bad weather and went down in a forest near Camden, Tennessee on March 5th. Everyone died. Patsy Cline, Cowboy Copas. Hawkshaw Hawkins, who had swapped his commercial airline ticket to take a seat on the small plane and get home to his pregnant wife faster. 2 days later, driving to a memorial service for Patsy, the singer Jack Anglin ran his car off the road and died too. 1 week, 5 funerals. The Opry stage stayed dark. You would think Nashville stopped flying small planes after that. It did not. 16 months later, Jim Reeves, Gentleman Jim, the velvet voice who sold more records in Europe than Elvis, flew his own Beechcraft Debonair into a thunderstorm over Brentwood, Tennessee. He had a pilot's license and a habit everyone knew about. He refused to wait out bad weather. The plane came down in the woods just miles from his home. It took searchers 2 days to find the wreckage. Marty Robbins was one of the men combing the forest. Reeves kept having #1 hits for years after his death. The industry had found something remarkable, a star who could tour the charts without ever needing a hotel room. The list kept growing. Ira Louvin, one half of the Louvin brothers, the harmony duo that taught the Everly brothers and later Emmylou Harris how 2 voices could sound like one. Ira had the temper, the bottle, and a third wife who once shot him 4 times and told police plainly that she was glad she did it. He survived that. He did not survive June 1965, when a drunk driver hit his car head-on in Missouri. The man whose most famous album was called Satan is Real was killed by someone with a blood alcohol level 3 times the legal limit. By the 1970s, the roads had improved. The planes got bigger, so the machine found a new way to burn people down. The touring economy itself, 300 dates a year, does not run on sleep. It runs on amphetamines to get on stage and alcohol to come down after. George Jones missed so many shows. They printed No-Show Jones on t-shirts. Johnny Cash flirted with death so many times it became part of the legend. Waylon Jennings, who had given up his seat on Buddy Holly's plane in 1959 and carried that guilt his whole life, spent 2 decades running from it on cocaine. Some of them, Cash, Jones, Waylon, made it through to old age barely. The next man did not. Keith Whitley was supposed to be the future, a Kentucky kid with a voice so pure that George Jones himself called him the real thing. By 1988, he was married to fellow star Lori Morgan and stacking #1 hits, When You Say Nothing at All, I'm No Stranger to the Rain. But Whitley was fighting the oldest enemy in this story. He did not drink often, friends said. He drank like a man trying to disappear. On the morning of May 9th, 1989, alone at home while Lori was on tour, he died of alcohol poisoning. His blood alcohol level was .47, almost 5 times the legal limit. He was 34, exactly like Hank Williams, his idol. He left behind a song that charted after his death, I'm Over You, 36 years after that Cadillac in West Virginia. And the story had not changed one word. And then there's the tragedy nobody talks about because it shames the industry more than any other. Dottie West, the first woman to win a country Grammy, Kenny Rogers' duet partner, a member of the Opry for almost 30 years. By 1991, she was broke. Bad managers, bad investments, an IRS auction that sold her stage dresses. At 58, she was still performing because she could not afford to stop. On August 30th, her car broke down on the way to an Opry show. She was late. Her 81-year-old neighbor offered to drive her and took the Opryland exit ramp at 55 miles an hour on a curve posted for 25. Dottie West died of her injuries 5 days later on an operating table at Vanderbilt. She was on her way to sing for a crowd that had no idea the woman on stage could not pay her bills. 5 years later, in December 1996, Faron Young, the hillbilly heartthrob, one of the biggest stars of the 50s, shot himself in his Nashville home. He was 64 sick and convinced the industry he had helped build had forgotten he existed. Judging by the size of his obituaries compared to the size of his career, he was not entirely wrong. So look at the whole picture, because nobody in Nashville ever wanted you to. Hank Williams, 1953, The Pills and the Road. Johnny Horton, 1960, The Road. Patsy Cline, Cowboy Copas, Hawkshaw Hawkins, 1963, The Plane. Jack Anglin, 1963, The Road. Jim Reeves, 1964, The Plane. Ira Louvin, 1965, The Road Again. Keith Whitley, 1989, The Bottle. Dottie West, 1991, The Road and the Poverty. Faron Young, 1996, The Silence. Different decades, same machine. An industry that sold heartbreak by the record and produced it by the career. Every name in this story deserves more than a chapter on this channel. They will each get one, the full stories, the documented facts, the parts the legends leave out. That is what we do here. Subscribe if you think they deserve to be remembered properly.